Welcome to Layman Storyteller. I was just reading in Quora about the people in India who should have been given the Bharat Ratna, which is the highest Indian civilian award. And there was one name that actually came up. It was a Verghese Kurian. And in that context, I remember reading a book about Verghese Kurian. It's called I Too Had a Dream. I read this quite some time back. And it is an interesting book because just like me, he's also Syrian Christian from Kerala, and his journey has been one of the most remarkable journey that few people can actually be proud of. Uh, Born in Kerala, his father was a surgeon, but he passed away much early, and then he wanted to join the army, but his mother somehow convinced him not to join the army, in fact. And after completion of his graduation, he joined the Tatas, and he was not happy there after a point of time, and then he wanted to go abroad and do his studies, and he went to US on the government scholarship. And the funny thing was, he didn't know which course to be taken, and then somehow life led him to take something on dairy farming and things on that context, which was something which was new to him, and it was something which India needed more talent on, and that's what government had awarded. And he went to US, he completed his studies, and just like any person who studied in the US, he wanted to work with a private company and lead a calm and quiet, joyful, merryful life. But since he had gone on a government scholarship, for him to work in any private company, he would have to pay the college fees for which he had incurred the expense to the government. So that was a hefty fees, and he couldn't do it. And then he had to actually, unreluctantly, had to work for the government. And his first posting was in a place called Anand in Gujarat. Back in those days when he had finished his education, Anand was just a small village where there was nothing much to do, and the government project was also not all that funded, not all that great, and he didn't have much of an idea on the dairy farming or things of that sort. But during his free time, he met a person called Patel, Thiruvendas Patel, and he was a local leader who had organized the farmers, the dairy farmers, and started a cooperative society called as Kaira. He would, since he had a lot of spare time, he would spend a lot of his free time with Patel. And when he had actually come back to India, he used to wear fashionable, flashy clothes, and he had an extremely Western outlook in his mind. And this Patel was a normal Gujarati politician who wanted to help people, but somehow they struck a chord, and he was drawn too much towards this Patel. He started working for this dairy farmers, and the dairy farming there, it is done on a cooperative basis, not like the corporates which we see today. It is cooperative society setup that was there. And in India, other than the Amul, which is the brainchild which is started by them, there is no other cooperative society which has come up to this level. And back in those days, India had shortage of dairy products. In fact, the milk production in India was so low that we had to import milk from the outside. And Mr. Verghese Kurian and started working very aggressively, and he started developing one after the other wonderful innovative schemes. He brought in something which was never heard of, marketing into dairy as well. So the marketing increased his demand, and that helped him to get to more markets, and more production could always be matched with his marketing things as well. So like supply and demand was always met. So with this marketing, he could find the additional demand was being catered to this match the supply. So it was a beautiful concept that was going through, and he started an initiative with the government called as Operation Flood, where they started building something similar to the Amul and the Skyra Cooperative Society model towards the entire India. And from there, it spread, and India became one of the few countries which had a surplus of milk production, and we were self-sustained. This was not an easy task to do. He had to fight with the local politicians, local bureaucrats, and on top of that, he had to fight with MNCs abroad as well. There were a lot of allegations that came in with him, and he had to fight every single person. And he was not always very polished and things with others. Sometimes he was, some people considered him brash and rude, but then he always made sure that he made his point convinced across the table, and to so much that even the right wing leaders of the country, who were not very fond of people from his background, also started respecting him to that kind of an extent. So that was the effect of how much he made change in that kind of a community. And he not only brought about change into the milk dairy farming in India, he also brought about changes in the life of every single dairy farmer in India. And he started giving much more better facilities to dairy farmers as well. He had actually revolutionized the entire industry. The milk farmers, the dairy farmers had a name for themselves. The entire concept was revolutionary. Now this brings me about the story of Matthew in Bible. Matthew was just a tax collector before Jesus Christ actually found him, and he gave him that energy and things to think in a different direction. And from that, he became an ardent follower of Christ, and then he started. And in Bible, if you notice, Matthew is the first book in the New Testament, and it is the English literature professors say that is the best written book in the entire Bible. The way of his expressions and things are remarkable. So it was actually a guidance by God, who made an educated tax collector into someone who is great and whose work is being known across the world. The Verghese, Kurian and Patel partnership just show how the student and a teacher can make a lot of change. Mr. Patel was not a direct teacher of Mr. Kurian, but he was a mentor for him, and that made all the difference, not only for himself but also for a group of farmers initially, and then that blossomed to a vision of the entire country becoming self-reliant on itself. So it was a great vision. So like when a good mentor is available for any youngster who has a passion to do more, there can be miracles that can be produced. And this is just one small example of the miracles that a mentor can do for a student under him. Thank you so much for listening to us. We hope to see you next week with another story.